If you want to do the last type of podcast, the third topic here, you'd click where it says talk about a specific topic that you know a lot about. So you'll click here and it will take you to the planning form for that type of podcast. So first things first, put your first and last names right here where it says write your first and last names there, and then immediately share it with me. So you'll click share, type mfino@sulsd.us, click me, Michael Fino with the Warriors jersey and the Stitch hat, send. All right, so then I'll be able to see your planning as you go along and help you out if need be. Okay, so number one is just, so you're going to fill this out to plan for your podcast. Number one, what will be the topic of your podcast? Remember, you want to pick something that you're passionate about or know a lot about. So, any topic you want to, that you know a lot about, that you love, if you're into a specific show, if you have a certain hobby, right? Whatever you want, you can pick, right? So I might say, for me, I know a lot about the Warriors, so I might just say Golden State Warriors and make a podcast on that. Okay, what will be the name of your podcast? So be creative with the name. Let's say I'm thinking about this. I actually have a plan for this, so maybe I want to make my podcast about the Warriors called Dub Talk Pod, right? Warriors Talk Pod. Maybe I'll just say it with Mr. Fino. Okay, there you go. There's the name of my podcast. Just be creative. 3, other than the opening sound effects, what will you say to open your podcast? What will you say to introduce the concept of your podcast in an interesting way that will hook the listener? So this is where I would talk about, generally what my podcast is about. And then specifically, I talk about kind of open with what am I going to talk about in this specific episode, right? I'm going to talk about this, this, and this, whatever. Okay. That's what I'll write here. 3 is to break your topic up into 3 parts. I'm going to try to help you out here by structuring this really rigidly, so it's a little bit easier for you to plan this out. So after you know the topic, right, your title, I want you to think about how you can break it up into 3 parts. So if I was talking about the Warriors, maybe I would talk about, what they did in the draft. Maybe I'll talk about, how I think they should set up their roster and their rotations in the year, and then maybe predictions, right? So that's how I'd break it up. Number 4 is to write more details about each of the topics you listed in number 3. So you've got your 3 parts, right? A, B, and C. And I want you to break it up into even more parts. This is going to help you when you're recording your podcast and you're talking. It's just going to help you structure your thinking, right? You already know a lot about this, right? So hopefully you already know a lot about it. So this is going to help you. It's going to guide you through what you're talking about, right? So think of these as talking points that'll help you share about your topic. So I already said, right, this was about the draft. This is about rotations and how they're going to, set their team up. This is about my prediction. So I'd break it down even further and talk about, let's say if I'm talking about the draft, maybe I'm talking about how I think Wiseman will fit in, how I think Nico Mannion will fit in. And then I guess I could talk about Justinian Jessup, even though he's going to keep playing in Australia. But I guess I could talk about all 3 players there. It actually fits nicely. For the rotations, maybe I could talk about some different options they have, what I think they should do, maybe another free agency signing they should do, whatever, okay? And then predictions, I could talk about, what I think the record will be, will they make the playoffs, right? And maybe the last one I talk about next year's draft, if they get that pick from Minnesota, maybe I'll talk about what I think they should do with that. All right. And number 5, other than the closing sound effects, what will you say to end your podcast? It's just where you wrap it up. You summarize what you talked about in the podcast and write that down so you know what to say. Okay? Again, if you haven't shared this with me after you're done, make sure you share it with me at mfino@sulsd.us. Click here and do that for me so I get your plans. All right. Thank you.